So good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Alicia Vaz, and I'm an account manager in the Architecture, Engineering and Construction team at Esri UK. And today I am delighted to be your host for Esri UK's first ever ArcGIS update for spring 2023. Now, in today's session, we will be taking a look at all the latest and greatest updates to make its way through to the ArcGIS system, giving you a chance to hear what's new, what's coming, and ultimately start to plan for the future. Now, alongside me today, I am joined by a fantastic lineup of presenters, including our Group Chief Technical Officer, Charles Kennelly, two of our fabulous GIS consultants, Eve and Claudia, Ahmad, our software engineer, and Liz, our very own in-house data curator. So thank you again, team, for joining me today. I'm really looking forward to seeing what you have in store for us. Now, before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. Today's webinar will be recorded, so if at any point you need to drop off to take a call or send an email, please do not fear. The recording, alongside a link to the slides and all the resources that we will reference today, will be sent out post-event. Now, because today's session is jam-packed with lots of exciting updates, we will not be taking a live Q&A. But we will be taking questions on Slido. So to get set up and to access Slido, you can either scan the QR code on screen, or you can navigate to slido.com and use event code ESRI2903 to get started. In there, you will find a Q&A section where you can log and upvote questions. The most upvoted questions will be addressed post-webinar in our follow-up thread. At the end of today's webinar, you'll also find a poll section in there, which will become active. And that gives you the opportunity to submit and tell us your feedback about how you found today's session. So in terms of what we have coming up, we're going to kick things off with the headline news, which is a few short updates to give you a view as to what's coming this spring. We'll then hear from Charles, who's going to tell us about Esri UK's vision for this year. And then we get into the bulk of the updates. So we'll be taking a look at what's new in ArcGIS Online. We'll explore the 2021 data, which is now readily available in the ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. We'll take a look at some of the latest features in ArcGIS Pro and then finish off by exploring Report Builder for ArcGIS. So it is a jam-packed session. We hope you're looking forward to today's call. We very much are. So get comfortable, grab a cup of tea and sit back and relax, because we're going to kick off with the headline news. So first up, we have the retirement announcements. Last month, Esri announced that the ArcGIS API for JavaScript version 3 will be retired. As a result, we will be retiring Web App Builder shortly. For organizations out there currently using Web App Builder, please take note that there are a number of retirement dates to be aware of. If you are currently using the Developer Edition, it will be retired in July 2024. And for those of you using the version that ships with either Online or Enterprise, it will be retired a year later in 2025. Ultimately, what this means is that if you are using Web App Builder in any of your work, you will need to look to migrate your web applications. Now, in terms of the direction of travel, we would recommend looking at alternative solutions such as Experience Builder or the templates available with ArcGIS Instant Apps, which offer the most parity. We do appreciate that for a lot of organisations, this might be a big change. So for that reason, when we come to run our next ArcGIS update for summer 2023, we will be shining a spotlight on the migration path towards ArcGIS Experience Builder. But now is a really great time to think about the apps you currently have and how to migrate them across. Following suit, we also have another retirement announcement around Locator Hub. For those organisations who are using Locator Hub in-house, it will be retired at the end of this year on the 31st of December. Now, as an alternative, we have a number of addressing options on the table, everything from the World Geocoding Service all the way through to ArcGIS locators. If you're not quite sure where to start, we have a whole host of resources to get you thinking about what to do next and which locator is best for you. We will send all of these resources as a follow-up, but as a starting point, we would recommend taking a look at the retirement webinar to give you a little bit of food for thought. Any questions that come off the back of it, please either get in touch with our addressing team directly using the alias or come through to your account manager and we will put you in contact with the right people. So from retirement notifications, we then move on to content updates. Now, the Ordnance Survey recently announced that the way they will be serving out content moving forward is changing with the introduction of the National Geographic Database. The National Geographic Database essentially groups OS's data into 9 different themes, everything from addresses to land use, water, all the way through to building data sets. What this allows you to do as a consumer is more easily access and find the data sets that are fit for purpose. It also means that you'll be able to tap into some of the benefits in the background, like more frequent updates to the data set. Now, the National Geographic Database is designed to work alongside existing OS products, with the exception of OS Highways. So those of you out there who are currently using OS Highways and procuring the data through us, we would have already been in touch to migrate you across to OS Speed data. But for any brand new organizations who are either interested in premium content, OS data, or perhaps you have a couple of questions around the migration path, please get in touch. We'd love to tell you a little bit more about our data offerings and address any questions that you might have. Another exciting update is that Windows 11 support for ArcGIS field maps is coming this June. So if you are currently using Windows devices, you're going out into the field and collecting data, this one is for you. And finally, like many of you on today's call, at Esri UK, we are eagerly anticipating the latest release of ArcGIS Enterprise version 11.1 to drop. Whilst we wait, now is a great reminder to do a little bit of housekeeping, clean up your enterprises if you are looking to upgrade to the latest version when it becomes available. Now, just for those of you who aren't aware, at version 11, there were a number of key changes that were made to Enterprise. Everything from the ArcMap-based runtime being retired, all the way through to the retirement of classic story maps, classic dashboards, and a number of the configurable templates. So if you are looking to upgrade, again, please do take a look at the changes that came into play at version 11 and do a little bit of housekeeping. If you do have any questions or you need support with the migration path, then we have a number of consultants who are really well versed in the upgrade pattern. So get in touch with us. We would be happy to help. So that brings us to the end of the headline news for spring 2023. And I'd like to hand you over now to our Group Chief Technical Officer, Charles Kennelly, who's going to tell us a little bit more about Esri UK's vision for the remainder of this year. Charles.
Thank you, Alicia. And just no slides, so if you want to stop sharing, I'll just do video. Good morning, everybody. I'm talking to you from central London. I'm in the Geovation Centre, the Ordnance Survey's Geovation Centre in London, and it's a lot warmer here than it was in Scotland. Am I coming through okay? Can you see me, hear me?
Yep, all good. Thank you, Charles.
Okay, thank you. So, talking about the rest of the year and a bit beyond that, it's a very exciting time for GIS. We are, as a business, we're seeing continued growth. Esri around the world is seeing continued growth. And ArcGIS Online, which we introduced 2008, I think, 2012, we introduced the ArcGIS Online. It gives us a way of measuring the usage of GIS, the engagement with it as a technique, as a platform, as content across the world. And we can see the patterns of usage and so on that emerge from that. Now, a lot of the work that you do and that we do also happens not in an online environment. It happens, on-premise with ArcGIS Enterprise and desktops and so on. But we use the online environment as a sort of a proxy for telling us the overall state of play in the use. And what we see is massive public engagement, like trillions of map hits. The online usage is growing about 20–30% a year at the moment. And we're just seeing a lot more delivery of mapping, of analysis and so on to the general public, more so than we've ever seen before. And initially, in the early days, that was primarily web maps and maps that you clicked on and story maps and so on. But we're also seeing a steady rise in the use of analysis in these environments. So people are doing more and more analysis work against GIS globally and more analysis work in that software as a service environment. So that's the sort of background of it. And one of the reasons why it's still growing is I think there's a massive pent-up demand for the usage of GIS across society. And it's more accessible than it ever has been in terms of complexity and cost and so on. It's a lot easier to access geographic content and geographic analysis and techniques than it ever has been, and therefore it's getting used on a wider basis. The challenge we face as a society is primarily the climate crisis, climate emergency, whatever you want to call it. That is driving a strong need for more information about the impact of our society upon the environment and how we can mitigate against climate change. It's requiring a more obvious need for GIS, which is leading to more usage of it. Another thing that I'll talk a little bit later about is digital twins and the language of digital twins and why these are really important tools for widening the message of GIS. But back to what we do at Esri. We've got a lot of products. It's a wide platform. There's a lot of ways of accessing it. We tend to think of it as 4 pillars. We've got desktop as a pillar, the professional GIS user. So that's primarily satisfied with ArcGIS Professional, and you'll be hearing about some of the new changes that are coming to that and the new functionality. But increasingly, that GIS Professional persona is being satisfied not just by desktop software, but also by the analysis tools and the capabilities we're bringing to ArcGIS Online and to ArcGIS Enterprise and to Field. And another trend that we see, before I move on to the other pillars, is the growth of field working. Alicia mentioned it before with field maps. We've always seen this massive division between desktop usage, where you're sitting in an office or at home or whatever, using big screens and a mouse, and you're doing proper GIS work with the desktop. And then you have field-based work, which is like a subset of that, mainly focused around capture or contextual information. What we're seeing as the technology changes is there's this massive demand for doing GIS in mobile environments. I used to do my home admin and emailing and so on the family PC. I would go to the PC and sit there and do email and respond to bills and everything in that environment. Now I do that on my iPad or my phone. I'm using a mobile environment for doing that work because it's available to me and it's possible to do it. I used to sit at that home PC because I had no other choice. We're really seeing a shift to people doing GIS in much more diverse environments and accessing it in more diverse ways. So that's the GIS Professional environment. Then we have ArcGIS Enterprise, which is about delivering the capabilities of GIS to an enterprise business. Mainly people are running this in environments like Amazon or Azure or other cloud environments. There's still quite a few companies who are running it on-premise on their own kits, but that is shrinking rapidly. It's mainly people running these systems in cloud environments for their own use. We're seeing a lot of development into that, mainly around the enterprise nature, making sure that the technology we have works well with the IT infrastructure, the security, which is absolutely vital. We have to work in secure ways. That security is tackled at the highest level, that we integrate properly with the various IT systems people need to use in order to protect and use and scale and grow their systems. One interesting area to keep an eye on is the development of ArcGIS Enterprise on Kubernetes, which is a new way of delivering an enterprise system that can scale and flex way more than we were able to do before, with a lot more responsiveness. And we're seeing, it's still early days on Kubernetes, but we're seeing a growing adoption of it, and we're learning a lot of lessons around it. One of its major attractions is that because of the nature of the Kubernetes architecture, you can upgrade systems from 11 to 11.1 in situ without turning the system off. So you can have your existing ArcGIS Enterprise system and then bring in the new upgrade version of it and then flip it over, and the end users don't even know that you've done it. In the past, upgrades have been a major barrier to keeping software up to date. And going back to that security question, being able to keep software up to date and supported is one of the best ways of keeping organizations secure. Then we move into ArcGIS Online and software as a service. And what we're seeing there is a real growth of the functionality available in that online environment. And our vision for this is that all the capabilities which are in ArcGIS Online, all the stuff that you have on premise, like utility networks and so on, are available in that online environment. So that you as customers, when you're choosing, how do I want to access and run this technology, you're making your choice about whether to run it as software as a service or as your own enterprise environment, based upon choices you want to make, not based upon what functionality is available. I can only do utility network with ArcGIS Enterprise, therefore I use ArcGIS Enterprise. You will be able to say, I've got access to all the functionality. How do I want to consume this? A multi-tenancy online system, a managed service, or on-premise with my own environment. So with ArcGIS Online, you're going to see a continued growth in tooling around the administration of it, so make it easier to control users' access to functionality, to control the budgeting of that, to report better on what's being used, to make sure that the content you're using is up to date and so on. So a real growth of admin tools and so on, and more and more advanced GIS functionality available in that software online environment through browsers and applications. And then the last pillar is developers. This is a growing market for us. We see real, quite explosive growth in some areas around it. And the thing to bear in mind is that every single piece of functionality we have in ArcGIS is available through an API. When you load data into ArcGIS Online or ArcGIS Enterprise, we make an API. That API is open and scalable and queryable and can be accessed by developers with any skill set. So that's another important way. So it's the desktop professional, the enterprise on-premise, the software as a service environment, and the developer environment. There's four areas come together to make up what we call ArcGIS, and that's our focus to grow that. Now, the last things I want to talk about in the dying few minutes is the growth of AI. So I've had more questions about the application of ChatGPT and associated AIs to ArcGIS than anything else in the last 15 years, really. And AI has served us very well in the GI community. Previous generation of AI tools really have helped us with image extraction, feature extraction, image analysis, and so on. That's really where AI has come to life. So object detection, things we take for granted now that 10 years ago were next to impossible. They have really
2 minutes. 2 minutes, Charles.
Thank you. What I see with ChatGPT is that large language model type approach. There's a new way of interacting with the capabilities of the software. So it gives a human interface to interactions with software and capabilities. So if you see things like GitHub have introduced Copilot, which is an AI that helps the developer, sketch out a design, fill in code, and so on. And it helps them in the process of developing code and shaping their ideas. I see a lot of opportunity for that happening with GIS, and we're putting a lot of research into that. Fundamentally, what it requires is the ability to have points where the AI can connect and talk to the capabilities of software, and that's something we're doing a lot of work in. But beyond that, there's real opportunities here for entirely new ways of doing GIS, where things that we struggle with today, like generalization at scale, I think there's opportunity for things like ChatGPT type tech, the algorithms behind that, being applied to automatic generalization at huge scale. So you have large scale data, people zoom out, and you're making that generalized map as we go, or translating between geographic layouts of utility networks, for example, into schematic view as a very quick, automatic, and flexible process. So we're putting a lot of research into that. And then the other area, I'll just, in my last 30 seconds, is digital twin. Now, the important thing with digital twin is every GIS is a digital twin. We've been working with them for years. You can make a case that paper maps are analog twins. We model the real world and we help people understand it and manage it and optimize it. The language of digital twins is an opportunity for us as a GIS community to reach a new audience, to communicate the power of what we do and help wider society really make use of what GIS can do. And that's the area that I think there's a lot of development, a lot of opportunity there, and a lot of opportunity for you as a community to be able to tell people what you actually do using the language of digital twins rather than the language of GIS and geospatial. So it's an exciting time. I'd summarize it as saying we're putting a lot of work into making GIS more accessible and more usable to a wider group of people. And you are absolutely vital to that mission and project. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, so before we hand things over to the wider team, this is just a quick reminder. If you haven't already been able to access Slido, please make sure you go onto there, log and upvote your questions. Once more, the most upvoted questions will be addressed in our follow-up thread. So keep them coming. We've started to see a few come through already. So next up, I'd like to hand it over to Eve, who's going to tell us a little bit more about what's coming in ArcGIS Online. Eve.
Thank you so much. I hope you're able to see my screen all right. And with that, I will be able to talk a little bit more about what's new in ArcGIS Online, thanks to the February 2023 update. And so if I am able to start with a demo, then that will be perfect. So I figured what better way to kick things off than by going into Map Viewer. With bated breath, we've been waiting for analysis tools to come into Map Viewer from Map Viewer Classic, and they are finally here and have migrated. And although the analysis tools themselves are not new to Map Viewer by any means, there are a few enhancements which I would love to take you all through. Starting with history, the history feature allows you to keep a record of all of your analyses, as well as being able to rerun them or modify as needed. Not only is this useful for you while you're going through your analyses, but this could be very helpful for any collaborations that you have with teammates so that they can see what you're doing and adapt those analyses as needed. So on the screen in front of us, we have the Queen Elizabeth II Centre, which is where our annual conference is going to take place later this year. If you're interested in learning more about it, I highly recommend you check out our events page. And all around us, we have generated travel areas of walking distances at 5, 10, and 15-minute intervals. We also have points which kind of look like pixie icons to highlight where the London blue plaques are, so that if you're interested in checking out any of these historical sites in between sessions, you'd be able to do so. So if we went into our overlay layers feature or analysis in order to rerun it, we'd be able to go through, modify our settings as needed to then be able to clip this layer so that you could just see the blue plaques within these 5, 10, and 15-minute times. So before we run this tool, the estimates credit is not a new feature. However, it has also been redesigned to make it more apparent within Map Viewer to allow you to better manage your credits before you run anything. And now that we have estimated it, then we are able to run it as well. And then while that's running, I wanted to take you through a few other capabilities that have come into Map Viewer as well. Starting with the legend, you now have the ability to group features within a legend, starting with if you wanted to organize or in order to have better organization of your legend. In this case, I wanted to sort my minutes by features that were going to be nearby versus those that were going to be further away at 10 and 15 minutes. In addition to that, on the customization end of things, you are now able to add JPEGs and PNGs as vector points for any of the symbolization that you're doing. So in our case, if we wanted to utilize the Esri branding, then we'd be able to do so as a way to show where our annual conference is going to be. Finally, you're also able to add in a media layer. So if we go into our floor plan, You can see that by adding in a media layer, you are able to rotate, scan, or rotate, move, and change about the image as you'd like. And through these modifications, it acts as an almost georeference. It also allows users to have layer-like floor plans and can be useful for site management. It's also a quick way to superimpose without actually having to have that data. And now that we've gone through some of the things that are new to ArcGIS Online, or that are new to Map Viewer, I would love to show you some of the things that are new to ArcGIS Online, such as the what's new in Scene Viewer. So although voxel layers have been around for roughly a year, there are now some modifications to voxel layers to allow you to slice them. If you're wanting to get a bit more insight into your atmospheric data, then this is one way to do so. This now also comes with the abilities to have pop-ups for additional detail. We also have the Snap to Feature tool available for quick measurements. This could be useful for site measurement, or site management, urban planning, but also has some applications with digital twins. There are also the abilities to append custom request parameters. And if you're more interested in the visualization side of things, there is now improved resolution to elevation and shading. If we move on to Instant Apps, which is another application within ArcGIS Online, we have some new templates as well as some improved templates. So starting with our new ones, Atlas is currently in its beta stages, and this allows you to highlight a map collection as well as layers, a location, an area of interest, or a theme, and allows you to toggle between 2D and 3D, as well as having access to measurement tools or sketches. Also in beta is our public notification template. This allows you to create a feature collection, which can be exported as a PDF or as a CSV. Again, incredibly useful for collaboration if you're sharing an area of interest. Slider has had some improvements made to it, such as being able to configure multiple numeric sliders. And then moving on to Experience Builder, we've had a few new widgets or new data actions, as well as improved widget capabilities. Starting with our Add Data widget, this allows end users to add data on the fly from either their context, from URL or content URLs, or their local data. However, it is important to note that there are a few restrictions, such as when you're uploading a CSV, there is a limit of having 1,000 records. The Business Analyst widget has been redesigned to include two different modes, the workflow and the preset mode. The former will have a step-by-step panel for defining a geography and running an infographic, whereas the latter will embed an infographic with pre-configured settings. And then adding into the 3D toolbox, we have our Slice tool. This allows users to further investigate features within their scene. But what would an ArcGIS Online update be without looking into the administrative side of things? So we now have an improved organization layout gallery for sharing and collaboration. This provides a quick overview of item details in a side panel, but also allows users to filter either by item type, by status, by categories and more, all without having to navigate to the item's individual information page. There is now more at-a-glance information provided on the organization overview page, such as added insight into feature storage data status. It's now color-coded, so it shows when a feature is close to reaching its feature storage data limit. With indexes, you are able to query an index either by attribute or by full text. And then administrators now can create an item view count report, which allows you to see traffic trends of items over time. Whether you're monitoring or analyzing trends or brainstorming strategies to help retire content that isn't being looked at as often, or perhaps just gauging content success, then this report is a great way to do so. We've covered quite a few different topics, but if you would like to dive even deeper into what's new in ArcGIS Online, feel free to scan this QR code. But with that, I will pass it back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Eve. It's actually really great to see just the evolution in ArcGIS Online, just getting those tool sets, the analytical tool sets and the history. Particularly excited to get my hands on the Atlas template as well and have a play. Right, so next up we have Liz, and Liz is going to tell us a little bit more about 2021 census data in Living Atlas. Liz.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Alicia. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Liz, and I am the UK Data Curator here at Esri UK. And as Data Curator, I'm responsible for ArcGIS Living Atlas of the World. And Living Atlas is Esri's collection of global authoritative data that has been especially curated to support your work. And today, as Alicia said, I'll be giving a quick summary of the Census 2021 data that we are making available in Living Atlas. Now, we want to make it as easy as possible for customers like yourselves to use the powerful capabilities of the ArcGIS system so you can explore and visualize the latest census data. So here at Esri UK, we are curating the Census 2021 Phase 1 topic summaries in our National Data Service and our Living Atlas. There are 12 categories in this Phase 1 topic summaries, and as of today, we have processed 10 out of those 12 categories. So if you have an ArcGIS Online account, there are currently 53 census services available in Living Atlas for you to use right now for free. And there's more to come over the coming weeks. This census data contains population information for England and Wales at different geographies, and they have been sourced directly from the ONS. In the item description of each dataset, we've highlighted what the dataset is, the geographic coverage, quality information, and also its comparability with the 2011 census results. So you can check the datasets available now with the link on the slide there on the bottom right-hand side. And just to show you what sort of content you can create with this data, I wanted to show you a map that I've created. So using the census population summary layer, I wanted to find out how has the population changed between 2011 to 2021 in England. And it was interesting to observe that one of the biggest declines in population was seen in some local authorities in London, such as Kensington and Chelsea, Westminster and Camden. Over this 10-year period, Kensington and Chelsea's population declined by 10.6% and Westminster by 7.4%. Now, some speculate that due to the census being taken at an unusual time, with some people relocating during the pandemic, has affected this result. Interestingly, the greatest population increase was seen in the neighbouring local authority of Tower Hamlets, which saw a growth of 18.1% over this 10-year period. Now, Tower Hamlets is an area which is already experiencing high levels of deprivation and overcrowding, so it'll be interesting to see how this census results will influence plans and funding within the area. Again, you can check out this map in your own time by clicking the link on the slide there. Now, just to round off my session, if you want more information on the census dataset available in Living Atlas, please explore the story map collection that we have made, which breaks the datasets down into their respective themes. And for more general Living Atlas resources, such as if you want to find out what content is available, you can check out the interactive dashboard there. And wherever you are at with your Living Atlas journey, there's a set of resources that will help you to get started. So please check this out on the third link there, which is it varies from story maps to blogs, etc. And just last but very not least, the National Data Service, as I mentioned, we're curating the census data in our National Data Service as well. I've put a link there if you want to find out more about what that is, but essentially it's a product that we have where we provide open national statistical indicators where the data is sourced from ONS, Public Health England, Police UK and more. But please do be assured that all of the links and resources that I've talked about today will be shared in the follow-up email. And if you have any questions, then also please feel free to get in touch with the email on the slide there. Thank you, and back to you, Lucia.
Thank you, Liz. It's great to see the ArcGIS Living Atlas. If you haven't had a chance to get your hands on it and explore it, please do. There's a wealth of data and content. I'm really excited to get the 2021 census data in there as well. So next up, we have Ahmad, and Ahmad's going to walk us through some of the latest and greatest updates to make its way through to Pro 3.1. So Ahmad, over to you.
Thank you very much, Alicia. Good morning, everyone. I hope this is coming through. My name is Ahmad. I am a software engineer within Esri UK. And today I want to talk to you about what's new in ArcGIS Pro 3.1. Now, in the latest release of the software, we saw quite a few new interesting features, a few of which are appearing on the screen now. Features including reality mapping, the new catalog, data type, new raster functions, and so on. And as much as I'd love to go into all of these features, in the interest of time, I've handpicked the top 6, which I've found the most interesting, novel, and useful that hopefully I can talk you through today. So with that said, let's hop into number 1, which is reality mapping. It's finally here. With the ArcGIS Reality extension, users can manage and generate a series of 2D and 3D products from drone and aerial imagery directly within ArcGIS Pro. Such 2D and 3D products include a digital surface model of the Earth and any features above its surface, including true ortho imagery, free of perspective distortion, point clouds, 3D meshes, and so on. And some of these are cycling through the screen now. So if managing and generating imagery products is a common part of your workflow, you might want to take a look at this anticipated extension, which is now available. Number 2, we have the new catalog data type. The catalog data type allows you to organize large numbers of datasets from different projects into a single catalog, and you can see that happening on the left-hand side of the graphic on the screen. A catalog layer can then be created from that catalog data type, and the footprints of all the datasets within it can be visualized on the map, as you can see on the right-hand side of the image. This can help you keep track of what areas you have data for within your area of interest quite quickly, as we can see on the right with the green rectangles. At a glance, we can tell what area our datasets are covering, whether that's imagery data, polygon data, line data, and so on. Further, not only can you understand what area you have data for at a glance, you can also filter the data that you're viewing so you can locate specific data sets within a potentially much larger grouping of data. And let me show you what I mean by that with a quick little demo. So here I have ArcGIS Pro open, and on the left in the contents panel, you can see that I've loaded my catalog dataset as a catalog layer. Now you can see I have 2 different groupings that are available. Firstly, I can toggle on and off the footprints of all the datasets within my catalog layer. So again, at a glance, we can see what I have data for, what areas I have data for. But additionally, I can also click this layers in view grouping, and that can allow me to visualize and render the datasets within my catalog layer. But not only that, if you keep an eye on the left, and as I start to zoom into Nottingham, for which I have line data for, you can see that this grouping has now filtered to only the data that's within my map extent. So currently it's the Nottingham lines. As I zoom back out and zoom into my Leicester points, you'll see that this is on the fly rendering, or not rendering, kind of loading the names of the datasets that I have on my map. And that can be really powerful because if in my catalog dataset I have hundreds of, if in my catalog layer I have hundreds of datasets, then this can allow me to go to the point or the area in the world where I want data for and quickly find it and interact with that dataset, for example, as I'm doing on screen now. So hopefully that can save a lot of time and help us organize our data. Moving on. Automatic layout resizing. Now, this is one that I particularly enjoyed using. As the name suggests, if you've created a map layout and you want to change its orientation or size, you can also click this resize elements option, and that will reshape and resize all of the elements within your layout to fit the new boundaries of the layout that you want to end up with. So if I want to go from portrait to landscape or from A1 to A4, by using this feature, all of my elements can then fit the new boundary that I end up with. Now, it's worth mentioning that this is a really good at changing the layout of your elements to make it visually appealing, but it won't always see the vision you have in your mind. So you may sometimes have to move some elements around if you wanted to look a particular way for a particular audience. But for the most part, it's really good at maintaining that visual aesthetic that you've put a lot of time into creating. Number 4 out of 6, we have time-enabled scene layers. Now, many of us may be familiar with the traditional time-enabled layers within 2D maps, which allow us to get an understanding of how our data has changed over time through animations, for example. And now that's like a feature is available in 3D scenes as well. So here I have the borough of Manhattan in this video, and I'll just show you how easy it was to time enable this data. I extruded my polygons to create 3D buildings, and all I needed to add was a field with date values. And once I added those date values, which are fictional, just for the purpose of illustration, I was able to time enable these elements and begin to animate them over time. Apologies for that. And begin to animate them over time. And then that allowed me to create a video of how these boroughs may have appeared as time progressed. Now, this can be very powerful in large-scale construction projects, for example, to show how construction has progressed over time. Whether it's a residential area where many buildings are appearing, or if it's one large construction project, such as a bridge or a building, it can be very powerful in communicating the growth and progress of that project over time. Number 5, coordinate system previews. Now, this can help save time and rendering power when we're trying to find that perfect coordinate reference system. When choosing a coordinate reference system, we can right-click and ask for more information. And that will present us with some useful qualitative and quantitative information, as we can see on the top of this details panel. But as well as that, we get an image of the area in the world where the coordinate reference system we're interacting with can best be applied. Now, sometimes a coordinate reference system can best be applied to a large area, as we can see in the image on the left. But sometimes it's best suited to a particular point in the world. In both cases, we get a corresponding visual, whether it's a polygon or a point, helping us see where best that coordinate reference system can be applied, and therefore saving us time having to cycle through many different coordinate reference systems to find the perfect one. And last but not least, we have the magnifier window. Now, ArcGIS Pro comes with a whole host of accessibility and navigation tools, and this falls neatly in between both categories. Now, let me show you with another quick demo how this works. And we're going to look at the Suez Canal. Now, you may all recall a few years ago there was a blockage in the Suez Canal, which caused a lot of logistical problems around the world. Now, this map is helping us explore that. So I may want to zoom in, but rather than zooming in, I may want to magnify that point while maintaining this larger zoomed out view. So all I'll do is right click on the map and click magnifier. And that brings up a magnifier window. Now by default, you can click on this arrow and see that it's zoomed in 500%. I may want to zoom that out. And as I move around, you can see that the magnifier window moves around with me. Conversely, I can click in the magnifier window and navigate within there. Now, I'm interested in the Suez Canal, so I'm hovering over it right now. And as I begin to zoom in, you'll be able to notice that what previously wasn't visible due to a limitation on the view extents now is through that magnifier panel. And if I move out, you can see it's not actually visible in the overall view. So it can be very useful in viewing things that have limitations on their view extents. Now I can also pin this and move it to another side of my screen, and also then navigate on the larger map while maintaining that zoomed in view, allowing me to interact on a finer level in two different areas of my map if I am working within those two areas. I can select areas in this magnifier panel, select areas in here, carry out analysis, and that saves me from having to navigate around back and forth. So hopefully you enjoyed those 6 new additions, which were some of my favorites. If you want to find out more about them and all the other new additions in ArcGIS Pro 3.1, feel free to follow the links shown in this slide. Thank you very much. Back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Ahmad. I'm actually really excited about that catalog layer. I'm sure for many of you out there, if you have a lot of content that you're working with in the Pro package, it could be potentially quite beneficial tool to use. So thank you, Ahmad. So next up, I'd like to introduce Claudia, who's going to tell us a little bit more about Report Builder in ArcGIS. Over to you, Claudia.
Thanks, Alicia. Good morning, everyone. So I'm Claudia, and today, as Alicia mentioned, I'm going to be talking about Report Builder for ArcGIS. So this is one of our web app builders that provides you with a really simple design interface that allows you to create reports that show attribute data for features stored in ArcGIS. So that could be your ArcGIS content, or it could be data from the ArcGIS Living Atlas as well. But possibly one of its most powerful capabilities is that it runs a design once, run many times principle. So what this means is that you can design one report, and then it's going to take that one design you've created to create a report for each feature in your source layer. So that could be hundreds, or it could even be thousands of features, so potentially saving a huge amount of time. So just to show you how easy it can be to start building a report, we're going to start to create one today. So I've already opened up Report Builder for ArcGIS in my through accessing ArcGIS Online, and we're currently here in the contents page of Report Builder. So I'm going to go ahead to the right-hand side at the top here and select New Report, and we're going to select from a feature layer. Now, I've already searched for the data that I'm going to use in this demo, so I can go ahead and pick that. But as I mentioned, here we're using from a feature layer, but your data source could be a table, CSV, it could be multiple different data sources, and even if they're different types of data as well, that suits Report Builder for ArcGIS, so you've got no restrictions there. So here we are in the design interface for Report Builder. The very first thing I'm going to do before we go ahead and add any widgets is I'm going to go to the Settings tab, and I'm just going to specify the ID and name field for my data. Now, you might have seen that I'm using a census feature layer, so I'm going to select the local authority codes as my ID field, and then my name of each local authority is the name, and I can go ahead and click OK. And then as soon as we've done that, we can actually start to create our report. So let's add in some widgets. Now, on the left-hand side here, we've got all of the different kind of widgets. We've got charts, infographics, tables, text. There are so many different groups that we can take a look at here. But the very first thing that we're going to add in is we're going to add a text so that we can write a title for our report. So I'm just going to type in population report 4. And we're going to make use of this insert feature value and specify the feature name. So this will automatically populate the name of the local authority that we're looking at for each of these reports. I can go ahead and I can symbolize this if I want to. I can increase the size, I can change the font, and then I can click save. And there we go, we've got our very first widget. So let's go and add some more to show off the data that we've got for this feature layer. So let's firstly add a time series table. And you'll notice as soon as I've dropped that in, we've now got this kind of settings pane on the right-hand side. Now, the very first thing that we do before we go into the settings is actually specify the data that we want this widget to show. So I can simply open up my layer. I'll firstly actually select note indicators on the bottom right-hand side. And then I can simply click all of the different fields that I want to show, and I can click apply. Now, if I want to, I could go into the settings and the configuration of it all, but for this widget, I actually think it's doing quite a good job already. So I'm going to leave that one as is. But let's add a few more widgets in. So let's add a chart. Let's go for a pie chart. We can drop that in again. Again, the first thing we need to do is head to the Data tab. I'll select No Indicators, and again, I can pick the ones that I'm wanting to show. Let's go male and female population for 2021. As expected, it's about 50-50, but just to show the customization that we can do here. I mean, there's endless things you can do, really. We could go and make it a bit more of a donut pie chart rather than just a solid pie chart. We could go into the colors and highlighting if we want to. Perhaps I want to change the legend so it's on the bottom of my widget. One thing I definitely do want to do is I want to add a title to this widget. So let's go gender distribution. I can't type and talk at the same time. There we go. And I could go ahead and again, I can increase the size of this, the alignment, and we can click apply. So I'm pretty happy with how that looks, but I think it definitely doesn't need the entire space that we're giving it here. So with Report Builder, it's really nice and easy. You can just kind of resize it to something that suits you. So that leaves us some nice space on the right-hand side here. So let's add in another widget to fill out that. Let's add in a text box actually to the right-hand side. So again, I've just dropped it in, but to make sure that we're filling up that space on the right, I can just select the 3 dots and I'll anchor it to the right-hand side. And again, I can just reshape that. Now that's one way of using a text box just to kind of add some context and explain what the report's about. But another really nice way of using these text boxes is to create an indicator. So if you're familiar with ArcGIS dashboards, that kind of indicator view where you get a clear statistic telling you a little bit about your data, we can create something very similar here. So I'll just add in another text box. Oops, just move that back up. And we can add in our title. So let's show number of households with this infographic. So I know I've got that data. And I'll just select insert indicator value this time. Again, it's just a case of finding my field. I know it's around the top here somewhere. There we go. I can pop in my field. And there we go. I could even, if I wanted to, I could add an icon, much like with the ArcGIS dashboards indicators you can do. There are so many different icons you can use. They're in alphabetical order as well, so it's quite nice and easy to find what you're after. For example, let's go for a house. And there we go. We can go ahead, as always, and style this if we want to. I could centrally align it. I might increase the size. And we can click Save. One other little thing I like to do with, especially with the indicators, is you can add a background color as well to those. So this is on the right-hand side this time in our settings, and that's underneath this box grouping. We've got all the settings in here, and I can go ahead and I can just add in a background color. So I'm going to go for a gray, and we can click Apply. Now, if I want to, I could create 2 of these by simply, let me just extend that down so it's in line with my pie chart. And I can simply copy this, paste it, and once again, anchor it to the right-hand side. I'll keep that value as is, but hopefully you can appreciate what I'm trying to achieve here. And just to show you that run once design, the run once and kind of build many times, I've got that the wrong way around. Just to show you, we've got the view tab along the top here, and this is all of our local authorities that I've got in this data set. And if I just click on any of these, you'll see we've then got a report for each and every one of these local authorities. So it's a really, really, really powerful tool. And then I think you can appreciate this is a very basic example that I've shown here today in the time, but I have got a couple others just to show you a more finished and more comprehensive demographic report. As you can see here, we've got another demographic report, but it's making use of all of the different widgets. We've got infographics, we've got tables, we've got pyramid charts, we've got bar charts. They're really making use of such the wide range of widgets here. And then just to show you one other example, because of course this is just demographic examples, but reporting is crucial across many different industries. We've also got a report here from Newham Council, who have used Report Builder to create environmental land contamination reports. So you'll notice here that we've got this in a PDF, which is something else you can do. You can also print out these reports if you want to. They've also made use of, I'll just scroll here, they've made use of the map widget, which I haven't actually shown today, which also includes a handy little feature where you can set buffers around active features, which is another nice little feature, I think. So with that, I know it's a rather brief demo and a bit of a whistle-stop tour, but I hope you've seen the potential of Report Builder for ArcGIS. There will be handy links in the resources email we'll send after the webinar. But if you are interested in Report Builder for ArcGIS, then please do get in touch. So thank you very much, and back to you, Alicia.
Thank you, Claudia. It's actually really great to see reporting functionality. I think as account managers across all practices, time and time again, we get asked about how we can generate detailed reports, and this kind of capability looks like it has a lot of flexibility in it. So it's great to see it in action. Okay, so as we are drawing today's webinar to a close, this is just a quick reminder that you will not have to wait long until we're all back together again, talking about a number of updates with the technology. So if you are interested in learning a little bit more about our mobile solutions, join us on the 19th of April for our webinar, where we will be learning about how we can mobilize your location data with ArcGIS. We will cover a number of mobile solutions that come with a mobile worker license and help you to piece together an end-to-end workflow. If you've enjoyed today's session and it's been somewhat useful, we will be running another ArcGIS update, the summer edition, on the 19th of July. So please keep these dates and times free in your diary. Closer to the time, we will be releasing and circulating the registration pages, so keep an eye out for that. We will also be back in person at the QE2 on the 16th of May for quite possibly my favourite event of the year, which is Esri UK's annual conference. If you haven't already registered, please make sure you do. We are actually close to capacity, so if you do want to come along, meet a whole host of different individuals from a variety of different sectors and hear what's happening in the GIS space, this is a great event to be a part of. For those of you who can't make it in person, we will also be live streaming the plenary and the tracks that are running in the main room. So you still will be able to see some of the great talks live. Please note that you will also have to register for a live stream ticket. Again, you simply need to go to our website, put in your details and register today. So all that's really left for me to say is just a huge thank you to our presenters for taking the time and giving us some great updates. Also, a really big thank you to all of our attendees. We hope today's session has been useful. As a reminder, if you haven't already done so, the Slido session will be live for the next couple of hours, so please make sure you upvote the questions or get your questions onto the page. The poll section will also be live, so we'd love to hear your feedback and tell us how we did today. So with that, I hope you all have a lovely afternoon and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye for now.